to be self-evident that all men are created equal.
Inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings.
It's quite plain, sir, that Herr Hitler could not admit defeat in his air attack on Great Britain without sustaining most serious...
The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of...
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode of the Weekly Debrief. Kawa and I are back at it. I think episode 4 this will be.
Episode 4.
This past week's, to orientate everybody, we've caught up. There's been a couple of episodes released that are a bit behind the news cycle. This week, I think we'll be caught up, and these episodes will be coming out within a week of the news cycle. What's interesting, though, is I'm sure you guys have realized that some of our previous episodes, we commented on things that had yet taken place, and we were able to give our suspicions or assumptions of what we thought would happen. Some of those have, some of those haven't, but I think what that does is provide, hopefully, some credibility to us that we're predicting some of these things before they happen. But with that being said, we'll cover a few topics. The news cycle has been rapid this week. There's been a lot of developments that are obviously within the Middle East, and then some what we'll call domestic political races that have implications in New York City. And we'll probably wrap the episode up with either some Q&A and or some current events that are going on that's on the top of our mind. So with that, Kawa, how's your week been?
Week's been good, man. I sound nasally or congested because it's been raining here a lot in Texas, and the pollen kicks up, man. It just like destroys my sinus. I'm coughing and sneezing a little bit, so hopefully I don't sound like too congested on the show, but otherwise it's been good. Getting ready to take off on a little retreat here in a couple of days. I'm gonna go basically off the grid for a few days, off to a cabin somewhere, and just kind of get out of the city for a little bit, and probably about 4 days or so, and come back from that. And then I gotta hit the ground running with travel for work and stuff. What about you?
Yeah, this last week and this week has been pretty slow for me, relatively speaking. And this week, my daughter does half the summer here. This is her last week, so we'll probably hang out this weekend before I take her back home to Florida. And over the next few weeks, work will pick up for me. And then I welcome a new baby boy late July, early August. So that's exciting. So podcast episodes like these will be a little bit more of a challenge to get done. So we'll have to make sure we get all of our technical solutioning scoped and efficient so we can get it recorded and get off. But with that, I mean, I'm excited and everything's going great.
Having a boy is different, bro.
I've heard.
Yeah, it's a little different than having a daughter, but you'll definitely see like some of the pros and cons of having a boy. But that should be exciting for you guys, man. That's going to be, I mean, obviously any addition to the family is a blessing. So congratulations, bro. And well, it's been kind of a crazy news cycle. It's
to say the least.
When it comes to Iran and Israel. I mean, we should talk about like the whole ceasefire thing, because that was weird, right? Trump basically said, I mean, he's all over Twitter, bro. Like he's just like, I mean, he is going.
I don't know if you noticed, but he posted Truth Social and then they reposted on X or Twitter, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny.
X. Yeah, he's just I mean, he's been very communicative, so at least we got to give him that. You know
what's on his mind.
But you know
what's on his mind. You don't have to wonder.
Yeah. Definitely. He speaks his mind for sure. And so he claimed that there is a ceasefire, and on his Twitter, of course, but then he also gave the State of the Union, it wasn't the State of the Union. What was it? He addressed the country, but what do they technically call that anyway? But he was on TV, right? So he was on TV with his three guys, his top three in the back, which was a kind of funny aesthetic of seeing Trump and then seeing the other three behind him. But he says there's a ceasefire. that Iran agreed to, that Israel agreed to, and that Iran's going to ceasefire first. Their time window is first. I believe it was like a 12-hour time window that he gave.
Well, he
right?
said it would, in 12 hours, it will go into effect. I
Right.
think you and I were on the phone discussing comically, if you will, that once they're done with these operations, they'll cease fire. And we kind of laughed at each other like two little kids. They got to get their last punch in, but we're talking about bombs in people's lives. So it was just kind of funny to hear him say in 12 hours, they will cease fire. They've got to stop
in 12
arguing
hours.
first.
And something to the effect of after this round of targeting, right?
Yeah. Like
So
we got to get a few
basically,
more bombs in.
They knew that there's going to be another volley exchange between Iran and Israel. So he gave them a kind of a grace period, if you will, to go ahead and do whatever you want. But in 12 hours, the ceasefire starts. As the ceasefire had started, I believe it was then that Israel then ran their last bombing campaign on Iran, which obviously was a violation of the ceasefire within the first hour, according to Trump, was a violation of the ceasefire. And he said they dropped so many bombs that, the likes of which he's never seen, was quote unquote what he said, which I don't know what that means. But so Israel violates the ceasefire, then Trump comes onto the news and we see this clip of him the next morning where he's like, these guys have been fighting for so long, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Right. And I gave him a little twang. He doesn't have a twang.
No, but that's what he said. And I think it shocked everybody. I think everyone's like, was that AI? Because we all know the man curses, but most presidents will do everything they can in public not to do so.
Yeah, which honestly, look, man, it's real. It's real. Just like I curse a little bit on this show, it's just real, man. Like I could filter myself for you guys, and I do as much. I try to as much as I can, but every once in a while, you just gotta throw like an F bomb in there because you really want to emphasis on what it is. And in this moment, he felt like he had to throw an F bomb in there, which is fine. He's a human, dude. Like you can't judge him for that. But I think that he was genuinely frustrated with Israel for intentionally violating the ceasefire campaign. But we all know that Israel doesn't want this war to end, Lane.
No, I mean, Netanyahu, I want to say his name properly. It is well documented that this cat, as we say in the South, gets his rocks off on having what is perceived excuses to engage, whether that's dismounted planes, whatever, tanks, border operations, raids. But to your specific comments about Trump, is what I will say is, and I think he said it. I mean, he's disappointed in both, but more so Israel, because that's supposed to be our ally. You're the one we're supporting, and you're supposed to have the restraint. And look, I'm gonna let some people in here on a well-known, not secret, but and I said this in the last episode to an extent, is communistic, characteristically driven countries like Iran. What people don't realize is what Iran projects to their people and in public and on news, and what they are in reality are not the same. What I mean by that is some Iranians they don't have access to the great internet, great news stations around the world. Like some of these countries, there are certain filters and censorship the government does so that they can maintain the narrative and their image to their own population to keep them either into control or to continue to require their support or get their support domestically, politically, whatever.
100%.
So why I'm
100% Iran censors their internet. 100% they do.
So
that.
Why I'm saying all this is what I think, and what we're seeing is that Iran is not as strong as they like to say they are. I think most big boys and girls in the country know that, which is why people don't react to a lot of their proxy actions in the region. They just know that it's their way to garner the effects they need in the region for influence. But I think, I don't know what your opinion on this, Kawa, is, but I don't think that it took a significant operation for Israel and America to do what they did. I would say that is they're going to blow it out. Oh, this was a great op. This was impossible. Nah, not really. They executed it in 72 hours. They took all their anti-air and they dropped the bombs. It was 1 week.
Well, Israel said that. Many people in Israel, including Bibi, said that this was a successful targeting campaign, that they have achieved their goals and the kind of destruction and whatever end result that they were trying to achieve, that they achieved it. So they're happy with it. I mean, I think it's for optics because not even our B-2 bombers did the type of damage that we wanted those to do. And even with the 17 bombs that we dropped, I didn't realize we dropped 17 bombs. I thought we dropped 2 bombs per site, but we dropped
Yeah, I think
17.
B2s was
Like,
6 to 8, 2 per plane, 3 to 4 planes, and then the Patriots from the sub were fired at the alternate 2 sites.
I mean, I saw pictures of I saw like the Google Earth imagery afterwards, and you can see the little craters that the munitions made, but it doesn't look like it did much damage, you know. And I also read that what was the name of that, Fordow?
Mm-hmm.
The Fordow facility is 60 meters on the ground. 60 meters. I mean, you know, that's roughly what, 200 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Is my
It's
math
about
right?
180. Yep.
I mean, you're super underground. I don't know what kind of bunker buster is gonna, you know, reach 60 meters. So there is a very feasible, feasible truth behind what Iran's saying. If they're saying like, hey, first of all, we took everything out of these sites weeks ago because maybe they had the intel, maybe for whatever reason they knew that this was coming. So they were like, well, if this is going to happen, they're going to escalate. So maybe their protocols were to go ahead and empty Fordow and the other ones. And according to what they're saying, they did. But then, you know, Trump is claiming that it was mission success. And I don't think it was, if you're asking me.
Yeah, I think
Even if it was mission success on those facilities, doesn't mean that you got that enriched uranium.
Yeah, it's hard, right? I don't want to be naive to say I just believe optics. I think just understanding the impacts of bombs and the percussion and the overpressure that are created by these things, I agree with you. I think the images show externally not a lot of damage. I don't know what damage would be shown. There wasn't nothing much but 2 buildings and 2 entrances to a mountain. What I will say is, if those things made any penetration into the ground, and they're designed to go up to 80 to 100 feet in the ground, just the percussion and overpressure created by those bombs did damage. Now, did they get to the enriched uranium? I don't know. Can I tell you I'm convinced one way or not? I don't know, because I don't really believe much of what's put out these days, whether it's put out from a news source or government or whatever. What I will say is, I think the effect, or the verbally proclaimed effect of we wanted to destroy the nuclear whatever, that wasn't in my opinion, that was not the effect that they were going for. The desired effect was, Iran, we're tired of talking about this, either negotiate or not. And not to go too far back, but Trump reached out, according to sources, Trump reached out and tried to call the prime minister, or whatever his title is, the supreme leader of Iran, or Iran,
The president,
to say, hey, we need to negotiate this. And apparently the wheels were spinning to get ready to do it. And that was going to be his last resort. And I think the response has been reported that he didn't show up and refused to engage with Trump. So with that being said, I think Trump had just gotten enough. And I think he knew that if he didn't intervene with whatever method, that Israel was going to just find more and more reasons and excuses and leveraging points to justify their actions. And I think Trump knows there's a time limit until your Chinas, your Russias, and everybody else starts to get involved. And I think that was his true concern.
Yeah, and I think there's also a chance that Trump knew that the Fordow and the other 2 facilities were probably empty when they dropped those bombs. I also want to cover. Okay, so that's kind of like, okay, we'll see where it goes, right? We'll see what developments come out of that. But then let's talk about the Iran shooting rockets into Qatar at the U.S. base Al Udeid.
Mm-hmm.
I forget which base it is. Udeid, right? A lot of them were shot down, according to Trump, before they reached, so no impacts. And then one of them they let run away because it wasn't even going in a threatening direction, according to Trump. And this is from his mouth. So they just let it fly off, probably just to somebody's neighborhood somewhere else. Maybe the ocean, who knows? But so that happens. Immediately, Iran issues an apology to the Qatari government, calling them brothers. We did not mean to, basically, we weren't targeting Qataris. We were targeting the U.S. installation. That was the apology to Qatar. But also, what's more interesting is that the fact that Iran gave Trump in advance notice. Who knows on how phone call, signal, chat. No, I mean, obviously they gave him some kind of
Trump
advance notice.
just sends an
eventually.
iMessage.
Yeah, on Truth Social, they're just like, add Trump. We're shooting rockets now. No, so it's kind of, I guess it's nice of them to say, hey, we're going to shoot rockets. And then they did shoot rockets. So everybody was prepared for them. And it was kind of a show of force, which I feel like the Fordow bombing was also kind of a show of force.
Again, to Kawa, it goes back to that's Iran trying to maintain the narrative to its people that they're strong. They will not tolerate people coming in and attacking their country. And I said this an episode or two ago to you when Soleimani was taken out by us at Bayap in Iraq. Iran called, and all of us knew between 02 and 04, IRGC was going to launch rockets at bases at Key West and Erbil. So my point in saying that is, as long as their people think they're strong, they will, they will pay back to America and get their even. They're telling their people that, all the while they're saying, "Hey, look, we're going to drop these bombs. We don't want to hurt Americans because we're not trying to really, really get into this."
And I also think they sent their shittier bombs to Qatar.
Yeah.
Because if they really wanted to do some damage to the Qatari U.S. base, they would have sent one of their hypersonic missiles.
The ICBMs or whatever, the bigger ones.
And they wouldn't have given a warning. So they gave the warning. They shot their shitty rockets. They immediately issued an apology to Qatar's government. It looks like a dog and pony show of, hey, this is what we can do, but this time you got maybe lucky, right? Or maybe that's all they can do. Who knows, right? But we can't, as much as we want to say that they have to sell a certain image projection to their people, there's also a certain amount of their capabilities that we need to take serious, because maybe they can. I mean, if you look at the map of the U.S. bases surrounding Iran, bro, imagine if Iran had that many bases on our borders in Canada and Mexico, because we have a ton of bases on the edges of their borders, right?
Yeah, and more importantly, those submarines. There's scientists that say it's easier to find a pineapple in space than there is a sub in the ocean.
So it's a tough spot, man. We do a good job of saying, just in simple terms, Iran's the bad guy, but if you look at it, man, we wouldn't appreciate Iranian bases, 20, 30 of them on our northern and southern borders. We wouldn't appreciate that. So there is that to think about as well. It's not so black and white as everybody thinks, that they're just a bad guy and we gotta, bomb them and nuke them or whatever. No, it's not like that. And don't forget that when they and here's another example of that, is that when you guys hear that Iran chants death to America, it was the Ayatollah himself who just put a video out and said that when we chant death to America, we are saying death to the system of America, death to the policies of America, not to Americans and not to our way of life. But it's, and in a way, I mean, where's the lie, right? Our system sucks. Our foreign policies suck, hence affecting our domestic policies, hence the illegals and everything else. And now you got this whole rumor mill of Iranian sleeper cells coming into the U.S., sneaking through the border. Watch out for another 9/11, I mean, he's not wrong.
Okay.
He's not wrong.
Here's our first Y intersection between the two of us. This is why I'll exit right. Here's some fuck Iran. I have unequivocal evidence that these guys have been supplying EFPs, fingerprints, biometrics evidence, DNA, tracing supplies during the 20 years that I was in the Middle East along with you. They have a fair share of American blood on their hands. Now, I'm not saying that they just woke up one day and decided to go do that. I understand that in their minds, ideological, their ideology is, you're in our area, you shouldn't be here, we're going to support Iraq or support people standing up. That's fine, but the reality is, simply put, I don't give a rat's ass. I have many friends that have died through EFPs and other means that were solely supplied by Iran. So I agree with you. I get where you're coming from, and you're right. We would not tolerate, and we don't tolerate, ships and subs within 50 miles of our oceans, right? In the internet, we don't even like them in the international waters. I think a Russian sub was here last year, but near Florida. Year before, last 2 years, it was there off the coast, and we were getting pretty bouncy as a country. But when it comes to Iran specifically, and I think last episode I agreed with you. If you want to talk about Israel's influence on Iran, I'm with you. But when it comes to Iran personally, and then being in Mosul in 2019 when Iraq was trying to run their country and we were trying to support them, the IRGC was doing multiple things between covert and overt operations to still garner effects and get after the Americans.
I mean, I can't discount anything you just said, bro. I was right there with you. Same on everything. I agree with you. Internally, we can say, fuck Iran all we want because, like I said, I much less care about Afghanistan, than I do the United States. I want to see the United States flourish and everything, but we have to kind of take some of these things out of it, these personal experiences, and just say and I'm not saying that when Khomeini says, this is what we mean by death to America, he's not speaking for all his people either. I mean, he may, as an Ayatollah, be like, yeah, we could maybe establish some diplomatic ties, and then maybe he has influence in his government. Some of his generals just like doing covert shit. They're like, hey, we don't have to tell them. I mean, we do the same stuff. I'm sure President Trump doesn't know about every op that's happening, And yes, they do have blood on their hands. So at the end of the day, fuck Iran. But if we're talking about moving forward, and also in this case, what we're really talking about is comprehension, understanding one's enemy to understand, how to combat, whatever it is, the counter, their measures. And, and also there's that whole stereotype with everybody in America thinks every Iranian wants to kill Americans, just like they think every Muslim's a terrorist. That's the association that they want to paint. The death to America is what they want to associate to Iran, or just like the jihadist and the jihadi thing, they want to associate to every Muslim. So there has to be a little bit of understanding on both sides as well. And we're not talking about accountability just right now. We're just talking about, I guess, for lack of better words, trying to understand these people. So that maybe there's a way forward, maybe, because we just can't keep fighting.
Yeah, I think so. As we just provided, some analysis and opinions on the ceasefire, kind of recalling where our last episode was. That was over a week and a half ago for us. I released a video on my personal and on the Weekly Debriefs TikTok and socials, kind of discussing my initial reaction to hearing that we had bombed the Fordo site and whatnot. And I have a lot of emotions when I see that, because as I've just previously articulated or probably illustrated, my bias is that I am not a fan of Iran. Just isolate Iran as a country and their proxies and militaries and actions that they do throughout the region. So what I will say is I did not think that we should get, as I said last episode, get involved directly. We have been involved, obviously. But when the president makes a decision, I'm here to tell you, after 21 years, that's what we're doing. Let's get it. So if you're in the military, anyone who served in the military, you know how that is. There's a lot of things that you get asked to do or you're a part of where you're like, well, this is what I signed up for, whether I agree with it or not. So the operation itself, whether it was General Kurilla, the SecDef, General Kurilla is the CENTCOM commander, for everyone's awareness. He's in charge for the entire theater of Central Command, which is the Middle East. Secretary of Defense, General Kane, whoever was responsible for what I'll call pre-kinetic planning and execution. I will tell you, based on my, 21 years of experience of seeing this stuff, masterfully done. Their ability to start running information operations on making people think that the only way to fly that mission is from the west approach over the Pacific, so that they're not requiring or requesting air clearances through countries. They even took some planes and refuelers and launched them west, and then they waited a day later and launched them directly east. And if you look at the flight path, they went through a lot of the oceans and bodies of water through the European theater, not to alarm a bunch of countries' airspace. So I say all that to say is 30 plus hours in a plane as a pilot. I'm here to tell you, none of those Air Force planes have AC seats, heated seats. That as much as that B-2 looks really cool and looks like a transformer, it is not a comfortable ride. I've not been in a B-2. I'm not claiming to be. I'm just here telling you, I don't care what pilot you are, what plane you're flying, 30 hours, and that is not fun. So from an execution perspective, thumbs up to the Air Force. Great job. At the end of the day, guys, whether y'all agree with the bombing or not, those pilots were told, you're going to do this. And I think they did that exceptionally well.
I don't know too much about the B2, the B2s and what their capabilities are. But 30 hours in the airplane, that's insane to me.
I get cranky at 8 hours across the pond.
I mean, sometimes a 5-hour trip, coast to coast, roughly 6 hours is brutal.
Yeah.
And that's not even going overseas. Gotta take, an Ambien when I go overseas. Forget that. But at the end of the day, like I posted on my story, I said that this can be considered an impeachable offense because, and there's gray area here. I've kind of learned a little more about the War Powers Resolution and also the authorities of the president since I made that statement. So while I initially said that this is an impeachable offense, technically it's not an impeachable offense. The president of the United States had the authority to do this, and he did it. And honestly, I support him because at the end of the day, if we are going to say we want to bring the world to a more peaceful place and Iran needs to not have nukes, then I agree with that. I also agree that Israel shouldn't have nukes. I also agree that most countries shouldn't have nukes. But, this is one way to get it done. 1,000 ways to skin a cat. This was President Trump's choice on how to skin that cat. And we'll see what comes of it later if, Iran somehow pops up on the radar as, nope, we still got all of our enriched uranium and we're still moving ahead, What I would love to see is just some compromise. That's what I want to see, Lane.
Well, I don't want to go too all over the place here. I'll start off by saying I appreciate you being able to say, hey, look, I said this, did some research technically, or I was just wrong. I've learned more. Not to go over the War, Powers Act here, but everyone all over social media, I've seen people saying, I even posted some about this. I thought this was funny and I'll just say it here. And if I upset some people, I'm sorry, but this is just it. When I see some blue-haired, green-haired hippies telling me they're not going to get involved in this one, politely shut up. Like, you haven't been involved in anything to begin with. I will tell you, the last 20 years we've been in Afghanistan or Iraq, most Americans, almost all of them, 99.1%, have just still been barbecuing, still hitting the lake, still going to their clubs and restaurants and living their lives. So this mentality of like, we're going to war and my life will change, my children's lives will change. In theory, if we get in a full-on landscaped war, I don't want my child raised in a world where that's the case. But alternatively speaking, throughout the entire time of Iraq and Afghanistan, not much changed here on the home front. So I say that. Now, with all that being said, the War Powers or Resolute Act, whatever you want to call it, he has 48 hours plus minus, meaning 48 hours before, 48 hours after. And I've seen a bunch of politicians coming on, news channels and interviews like, well, he didn't notify us. False. Look, I'm going to tell you this. If you blame Trump on something, he is petty enough to go back and correct you and prove it. So if you're going to call him out on something, you better tell the truth. Jeffries, the minority House leader, was called. He was not reachable, did not answer his phone or his chief of staff. That was released. So I say all this to say is that, look, Trump was within his rights. He did it. It was a single strike. People are like, well, we weren't defending anything. We didn't have a reason. No offense, typical American citizen sitting on the corner on the back porch of your lawn. Being a taxpayer doesn't entitle you to determine who has or has not. The laws do, and there are appropriate people. And quite frankly, Kawa, if it was, let's say you were correct, or people that are anti-Trump, and not saying you are, that it's an impeachable offense, so what? He's been impeached twice. Like, okay, impeach him a third time. Yeah. You're not getting him out of the chair. So it's all an exercise in justice, if you will, to make it seem like these people care and they're going to impeach him. And guys, y'all have done so much to this man. It's lost the effect. You're only making yourself look worse.
Yeah, and I'm just not a tit for tat kind of guy,
No, for
man.
sure.
I'm not a tit for tat. That's why initially I said this is an impeachable offense because the president should not be conducting himself in this way. The thing is, he called out for 8 years. He called out Obama. He called out other presidents. He called out Bush. I mean, everybody. And then his whole campaign was, "I'm a president of peace, no more foreign wars." And then with one action, he completely made himself a hypocrite in the eyes of everything he said before that. So that's what kind of pissed me off, is that we stood behind you and we continue to stand behind you. But now when you keep making decisions like this, where you just want to throw a bunch of B2s at Iran, and I'm not saying that at the end of the day it was the wrong answer. I'm just saying that a president should maybe conduct himself a little bit better than the people that he criticizes, especially when he's a big mouth on criticizing. And I'm down for that, right? And then yes, you're right. Who cares at the end of the day? Because Obama dropped more bombs on
Well,
Syria
I
than
got something for you on
any
that.
other. I mean, Obama dropped more bombs,
I got
period,
the stats
than any
here.
other
I got the
president.
stats here, Kawa, because what we'll do is we'll show this graphic, when Kawa edits this. But someone posted on Twitter, Kawa, and I'll try to, do it justice. I'm doing it over the voice. You're hearing me in your ear, but we'll be able to have this graphic. I have it saved to give to you. Someone posted, long story short of the president's track record. So he has Bush 1, Gulf War, Clinton D, no wars, Bush 2, Republican, Iraq War, Bush 2, Republican, Afghanistan War, Obama Democrat, no wars, Biden Democrat, no wars, Trump Republican, Iran War. And then he says, anyone not seeing the trend? X Twitter notes or community notes blasted this kid. Was like, Clinton launched military. And look, I say this because I think most people our age do remember this stuff. But when you have somebody
Yeah.
between the ages of 16 and 25, 28 on social media as influencers saying this shit, that literally only show they don't know more than the past 4 to 8 years of the news cycle. It's comical. Clinton launched military actions in Somalia, Bosnia, Iraq, Sudan, Afghanistan, and Kosovo. Obama highlights
100%.
include dropping around 50,000 bombs on estimate on Syria and Iraq against ISIS, not to mention bombing Libya, Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia. Biden bomb count was lower, but not to zero. So I'll give you this and I'll tell the audience to go look and research some things, because people like to say, well, Barack Obama, who I personally work for, inherited this conflict. Go look at McChrystal's firing. Go find out why McChrystal was critiquing the administration. He was the commander in Afghanistan, and who was upset that the rules of engagement had become so soft that he was watching Americans get put on planes in body bags, and he didn't agree with the rules of engagement or the winning hearts and minds approach to Afghanistan. So he was going around visiting bases, hearing the soldiers say, it's hard to defend places or survive when we have to get shot at first. Where did those rules of engagement come from? Barack Obama. Why did he do that? Because politically speaking, it looked good optically to not having Americans get in large firefights and Americans dying. All the while, he put a bunch of quad-cons or connexes in Las Vegas, put a bunch of drone operators dropping bombs on people, everything from American citizens. Could you imagine if Trump dropped a bomb on an American citizen in Iraq today? What would happen if he authorized a target and a strike on an American citizen who had, defected, went to another country and was doing terroristic activities? America would lose it. But still, I only provide all these details and facts so that people can go and research this stuff, because Barack Obama was just more politically savvy. He was presidential, he was put together, but behind the scenes, Barack Obama was just making it rain with bombs in the Middle East.
Yeah. I mean, Barack Obama probably killed more people than the last,
and
two
deported
presidents
more
before
people,
him.
but I won't go down that road.
Yeah,
These are facts, guys.
that's true.
These aren't Lane's bias.
No, they are facts. And just kind of offshoot on that one, on the deportations. I mean, he built all the facilities that Trump is using now that he is getting criticized for, separating families and this and that. We're not going to get into that, but I'm just saying Obama built those. Okay. All right. Well, right now we have a ceasefire, Lane. We have a ceasefire. It looks like Israel is abiding by that. It looks like Iran is abiding by that. And that's good. That's what we want. But it doesn't mean that behind the scenes, things are not happening. There is this whole psyop with pushing this the Shah's son, Reza Pahlavi, as basically reinstating the monarchy. I've talked about this in a couple of videos now outside of our podcast and also in our last episode, I believe. But he's kind of you haven't seen this, but I'll show you. He's taken on the whole MAGA thing, but he made it MIGA, MIGA, because make Iran great again, right? And he wants to be the Trump of Iran.
Oh,
He wants to be the Trump of Iran, and Israel's pushing it. So if you guys are on X and you follow any kind of Israeli Hasbara accounts, it's all bot farms. It's like one of those little shops with the thousands of phones that are all hooked up, and then they're all posting in favor of this dude. They're all posting in favor of Israel. So when you guys are arguing on X, you're more than likely arguing with some iPhone. Okay, so just don't argue on X with anybody. It's ridiculous. Unless it's an actual person, you can tell. But anyway, so they're pushing this guy. They're pushing him big time to we want the Shah back. This is make Iran great again. It's MIGA. You see MIGA everywhere now on X. And again, what do the Iranian people want? Do they want to go back to a monarchy leader, a king, a Shah that is going to treat them probably worse than their father did? And also bend a knee to Israel, because don't forget, he kissed that wall. I'm going to post it on this episode too, because don't forget. All right, he kissed that wall. So he's going to bend the knee to Israel. And how long is that going to last in Iran with those people, with the Ayatollah's people? Ayatollah's gone now, but those people are still there. You think they're not going to try to take him out? Of course they are. Or, do we keep the Ayatollah in place? Because even though the Ayatollah is bad, it's not like they're shooting preemptive attacks into Israel and preemptive attacks into, U.S. bases. What do you think, Lane? Like, if we were obviously we don't know what the Iranian people want, but is a monarchy better only because of the ties and the connections there? Or is it better just to try to play nice with the Ayatollah and say, hey, let's try to, move forward with some kind of deal here? I don't think Trump's the type to want to befriend the Ayatollah.
so a few things here to unpack. Up front, and these may be some hot takes here, but and what I'll try to predict here, Cal, is I have a video I just sent to you. A news anchor on Newsmax, veteran, did a pretty good minute and a half synopsis that I will try to echo and paraphrase here, and we'll add that towards the end of the episode. I think it'd be a good fade out for people to see. We need to stay out of the business of regime change. I'm not a fan. I am so sick and tired of Americans thinking that the rest of the world wants to live like us, the West.
Or that we have to police the rest of the world.
I have been in Afghanistan. I've been in Iraq. I've been in Jordan. I've been in Lebanon. I've been in all these places, and I'm here to tell you, those places are beautiful. Their people are beautiful. They're doing just fine. Just because marriages, and I'm not trying to stereotype here, Cal, I'm just overgeneralization. Marriages, religion, ideologies, way of life, how the family is prioritized, just because they don't believe in the socially progressive issues that we do does not make them a bad people. We don't need to impress that on them. I'm here to tell you, we have tried for decades. So have the Brits when they went into Afghanistan. Ask everyone how that's worked. It's not going to. So either, not that you asked this, but because I'm anti-regime change and we need to get out of that business, I'm also, if we're going to do something, take the handcuffs off, let's go do it and get out and let them pick up the pieces. And I know that sounds very fatalistic and cruel of me to say, but I'm here to tell everyone, our audience specifically, that I wholeheartedly believe if we went into Iraq and Afghanistan, not justifying that we did, I'm saying once we committed, once I had to watch one of my guys get put in a body bag, let the American military do what it was designed to do, kill and win, and then go home. All this trying to establish governments and pick up the pieces afterwards, it's as inhumane or animalistic that I may be coming across right now. That's not what we're there for. I can tell you more Americans lost their life being a policeman on the street corner of another country than they did kicking someone's door down. And if anyone wants to contest me on that, I have the stats. I could show you the deaths from tier 1, tier 2 to tier 3, conventional ops all the way to tier 1. And I'm here to tell you The death rate is so much higher in the conventional force and per capita. Why? Because they weren't doing direct action. They were standing on the street corners waiting to be attacked, whether it be through bombs, IEDs, stupid stuff, right? Or completely untrained units being put over there just to meet a manning requirement. So I don't want to get too far off of the topic that you brought up, but anti-regime change, stay out of that business. I don't know who this dude is that you mentioned. I don't, quite frankly, give a you know what. That's their problem. If he wants to make Iran great again, I'll tell you this. I have heard and I have seen people like yourself and other commentators and people that understand Iran and know the culture and ideology there. I have heard the people are not the happiest of people. They do not support that regime. They do not support a lot of the messaging that they try to extend globally. And they do feel to a point either oppressed or minimally provided the opportunity to succeed and prosper. I will tell you, God, at some point I got to learn to shut up and let you talk. But I'm real passionate about this stuff. Good. It drives me insane. In a lot of these episodes, I've been the reserved one. But if people were saying this is not how you do peace, you don't get to drop a bomb and then call for peace. When you're America, you do. And this is going to sound arrogant of me. Yeah, that's him saying, I'm going to drop these bombs, regardless of the effect. Either start playing ball, or I will run through your front yard, I will jack you up, and I will walk away like nothing happened. Now, I say that to tell people, when a dad disciplines his son, he doesn't beat his son up to a bloody pulp. What his dad does is he takes a action or a swift action to show his son, you and I both know that I can correct you, I can overpower you, and you're going to do what I want you to do. And if you don't do that, then you're going to suffer consequences. And the scale of consequences are from grounding to verbal correction to I will put my foot so far up your ass you won't be able to breathe until Sunday. So
I'll give you something to
that's
cry
a full spectrum. And there's a reason why little boys, as we grow up, Cal, and we know testosterone, the only way to defeat it is more testosterone. I just went on a 8-minute soliloquy to probably not cover a lot, but to tell you I'm anti-regime. We need peace. However, we don't need Western values installed and implemented everywhere in the globe.
We don't. But Western values, installing Western values is just a guise. It's a guise like, remember in Afghanistan, they're like, we have to go there and save the women. Iraq. We have to go there and save these oppressed women. Iran. We have to go there and save these oppressed women. Bro, first of all, what have we done for the women in Iraq? What have we done for the women in Afghanistan? What have we done for the women in any country that we have said that? The Western values and trying to modernize these people and bring democracy to their countries does not work, because democracy has not been what they live by for centuries. It is embedded in their genetics at this point to live and live in the society and the government that they have. That is what they're accustomed to. They make the best of it. And like Lane says, they're happy. The people in Jordan are extremely happy. People in Lebanon are extremely happy despite what's going on there. People in all these countries are happy because they're not just going to settle for miserable. Just because they don't have the same freedoms or the same whatever amenities that we have here in the States, that doesn't mean they're not happy, and we don't need to introduce a different democracy into that country just so that we can have some kind of foreign influence there. But unfortunately, that's the truth. When we say that we need a regime change, and that's what we're good at, that's our playbook. I named several countries in the last episode that we did regime change for, and none of them went in our favor. But every one of them we took advantage of.
Nothing has changed.
Every one of them. No, but the playbook, the second part of the playbook is that if they don't work with us, then we demonize them and we find a way to justify action into their country. And that's the playbook until we put another guy that will work with us. And if he doesn't, then we got to do it again. So unfortunately, Lane, as much as you think that America is going to get out of the regime change business, I feel like a pattern of behavior.
Oh, we're not going to, but we need to.
Yeah, we need to. And we need to stop trying to tell people that we're going there to introduce democracy. We need to stop telling people that we're going there to save women and save oppressed women. Those women aren't oppressed over there. If they're oppressed anywhere, it's in Saudi Arabia. They're literally head to toe. If they're oppressed anywhere, it's in some towns in Afghanistan where the Taliban still have a lot more, show of force. But there's parts of Afghanistan where the women don't hide anything. There's just like in Iran, there's half the population of women that don't wear a scarf. And if they do, it's very loose. So you can still see their full, shiny, beautiful hair in their faces, and they don't give a shit. So if you guys want to see what it's like in Iran, there's a lot of YouTube videos that show you what it's been like in Iran for the last 5-10 years, and go look for yourselves. But don't just assume. Do some research.
Yeah. Something I'll throw out there to you, Kyle. I didn't even mention this to you prior to the episode, and we don't have to spend a lot of time on it, but I've seen a lot of the last 72 hours. Candace Owens has made a lot of headlines. You and I have both previously expressed our liking. She obviously has a spine and she'll stand up for what she believes in. Whether she's right or not,
I know where you're going.
whether she's right or not, to be determined. But I guess this will be the episode where this is Lane's coming out party. Kawa is not the only opinionated one. I'm just getting more comfortable behind this camera.
Okay.
So, few things. Miss Candace Owens, you live in the same city as I. I would love to meet you. I will still be a fan of you. When you tell people, for the people who serve the military, to not execute orders, or they should just prefer to go to jail, the most respectful and polite way I can say this is you need to shut up. You are an American citizen that has lived a life of general privilege, is what is defined, what we define in America. You have been raised, you've gone to college, you're educated, you've been making multiple hundreds of thousands of millions. You're married to a man that's worth millions. You have biracial children. For one, let's just call a spade a spade. None of your children are going to the military, so stop pretending. None of them are, so you won't become under that that hypothetical of if they were there. She said two things. She said if military members were asked to drop those bombs, they should have said no. You need to shut up, because the difference between you and those people is you don't have consequence. You know what your consequence was to disagreeing with Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire? You left. And you started a YouTube channel and was rolling in the sponsorships and money within a couple months.
Yeah, it's not exactly a 9 to 5.
Yeah. And then the second thing is, she said, if my sons were drafted and said that they had to go to war to carry out America's agenda, America's whatever, which, by the way, I agree with her. I don't agree in a lot of things we do. But if they were, I would tell them to go to jail instead of serving their country. I don't want to make this a sexist thing, but politely shut up. You have estrogen, testosterone. There's a difference the way men see a service, honor, and standing up for their families and things. It's just not the same. So everyone can be within a wheelhouse of expertise and or opinion, and you're entitled to your opinion and the expertise you claim to have. But when I see you on TV with a hijab, and the 2 days later you're talking about your sons not doing actions, you just seem like you're really being flexible to a lot of things going on right now. And I don't know if it's because you were trying to render respect to the news anchor and interview that you were doing, which I assume is what you were doing, but you're just getting a little bit too much emboldened, where it's like, hey, it's okay to have an opinion and a belief, but when you start doing all this other stuff, I feel like it comes across inauthentic or unauthentic and disingenuous. So I'll stop there, Kawa. I kind of threw that grenade in the room. We didn't talk about the episode. I wanted to bring it up, but when you said regime change, it reminded me of her.
You beat me to it, honestly. You beat me to it. I was going to bring up Candace too, because I have respect for her too. I think the reason I side with Candace on so many things is that principally, and I just take a look at everything principally, and I think she kind of does too, and that's what attracts me to what she's saying, to her side. And I think most people are on board with what she's saying. But then two things here. One, you have never served in the military yourself. You have no idea what it's like to serve one day in the boots of these men and women who have put their name on the dotted line, swore an oath to protect this country from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And yes, you're right. There are such things as unlawful orders. You're right. But you know what? It's not like these guys can just say, no, sir, I'm not going to fly this B-2 into Iran. They're just going to pick somebody else. You'll never hear about the guy. You'll never hear about the guy that said no, because he's going to be shoved into some desk job, so far into the headquarters sections that nobody will remember him, and he'll never get in a plane again. And so what you're doing is you're implying that people should throw away their careers, not just in the military, but also in their lives, because once you get dishonorably discharged out of the military, good luck trying to get a job, a real job. You can go flip burgers, or maybe you can start a YouTube channel and blow up and have millions of followers and then marry a millionaire. So yes, I also have a bone to pick with you. That's fucked up. You don't tell military service people, especially you. Now, if you had served a little bit and you had walked a couple of days in those boots, then I'd give you a little bit of weight there and say, okay, well, she did her time too. And whether it was 3 years or 23 years in this case, like Lane and I, then, but Yeah, you just need to shut up on this one, Candace. I mean, I respect you, I support you, but this
Well,
you're way out
and
of your
additionally, you
lane.
said this, and I can't help, and I won't say the word, but we'll know what we're talking about. The same mandate that was implemented 3 to 4 years ago, Cal, which will bring a smirk to your face, was the very mandate people were saying, "Well, I'm not going to take that. You can't make me take that. You know what?" And guess what happened to those people? 16, 17, 18, 19 years. They got kicked out of the military, Candace. Will you employ that O5 who got kicked out? Will you employ that E7 at your podcast? So because he doesn't have a retirement anymore, he doesn't get a pension. He just got kicked out at 17 years. Like, you don't understand the implications. I was blessed and privileged enough, despite getting in trouble a few times in the military, to be able to retire with a pension. I still had to prove and do mental and verbal and grammatical gymnastics to get hired in an industry, which, by the way, is still similar to the industry in which I departed. So I say that to say I could barely compete for sales roles in other industries coming out of the military because I was overqualified, and the people that I would be working for, I was too senior. I was 40, retired military. You'll be intimidating to the 28-year-old manager. Another company was like, well, we want to make you the VP of operations, but you don't have operational experience. You know how comical that is to me, to know that I can lead an organization up to 220 people, move across the globe, go through a 9-month deployment of resourcing, constraints on funding, people's lives, for another person to tell me you can't track this Excel timeline for the next 4 weeks on to get a project done. So just a little bit of insight what veterans go through, Candace. And I would consider myself to be, and I don't say this egotistically, but I would, if I gave you my military resume, it's pretty impressive to say all the awards and the schools and the things I've done. Not because I think I'm better than people. I'm just telling you, this is coming from a guy who should have no issue coming out of the military and getting a job. And it was a struggle because, one, it was more of me doing an identity shift. Two, understanding the job market and how to brand / relabel or translate my skill sets into corporate skill sets. But when I hear you talking about, I would tell my sons this and I would tell the military person not to do this, you chartered into some territory. You have no credibility, and your words just fall flat.
Yeah, you just kind of stuck your feet in your mouth, your foot in the mouth for this one, Candace. But hey, we can treat it as an isolated incident on this
one. We're
still
fans. Like, I can disagree with you. I still think you're great.
You know what I mean? Let's move on with what you're doing. You're doing great things, but yeah,
you don't have
just a small thing.
And look, people like her she's gonna make missteps and say things, at least subjectively, right? When you're an outside the box thinker and you're not tied to anyone or anything, it's a pretty empowering thing in this world. When at the end of the day, when her paycheck comes from her herself and the sponsors that know who got in bed with her, not get in bed, that's a horrible analogy, to sponsor her and her to YouTube. Right. Hopefully people don't take that wrong. Y'all know what I meant. She's a happily married woman. I think she just had her 3rd or 4th child. Again, I've always been a fan of hers, but all that being said is just, good for you where you're at, and you've worked your way and you deserve your way. But when you start talking about the military and stuff like that in a negative manner, or people shouldn't be doing things, I'm not a fan of it.
It's a misstep. We'll leave it at that until, like I said, if it becomes a behavioral pattern, then Candace, it's going to hurt you. I'm just saying. Yeah. But right now, you got a lot of people behind you. Well, let's move on, man, because I want to talk about the race for the New York mayor. I don't know too much about this guy. But it looks like he's this underdog that just came out of nowhere, and now he's making headlines. And he may be this Zoran. Is it Zoran Mamdani? So Zoran Mamdani. I think he's everyone's kind of thinking that he's going to be the next mayor of New York. He happens to be Middle Eastern. He happens to be Muslim. And again, I don't know too much about this, but I also heard that Cuomo conceded, which is huge because Cuomo
stepped down because of the sexual assault, sexual harassment allegations.
He's a pedo. Yeah.
Kathy, the white Caucasian female took over.
I totally forgot Kathy.
Yeah.
Horchel?
Yeah, Horgel Hager. I can't remember her name, but she is now. Again, we got to stay. We have the governor, and then you have the New York mayor. Cuomo was the prior governor of New York as a whole. And he's a New Yorker. He's a New York City, if you will, guy from New York City. He was the governor. Some staff were complaining about his inappropriate behaviors or whatever. Catherine Hagel, whatever her name is, she took over for him and then remained in the position. This race is for the New York City mayor. At the current mayor is Adams and Cuomo, and this individual, Zoran Mamdani, I want to make sure I get his name right, were running a primary to run against him. The details, not that they matter, is that neither of them reached 50%, which means they could have did another runoff, but Cuomo conceded because he had a less of a chance to get to 50 than Zoran Mamdani.
Well, he's catching a lot of heat in the media there because, I mean, I'm assuming he's Middle Eastern. Where is he from? I don't know if he's Middle Eastern. Is he Pakistani? What? I don't know.
Well, I'm going to find out.
I know he's Muslim, and because he's Muslim and because he's brown, he's getting a lot of heat. There's a smear campaign right now on him that he's the first Muslim socialist mayor of New York. So he's Muslim and he's socialist, right? And so that's supposed to be like a really bad thing. I don't necessarily like socialism, guys. I don't think Lane favors socialism, but at the same time, I can say some really bad things about conservatives and some of the things that we stand on and some of the agendas that we push as well. And so I'm not a socialist, although ironically enough, we live in a socialist country. If you think about it, your mail comes to your house from the post office. Your roads are fixed by the city, right? I mean, we have Social Security. We have other social programs for poor people and poverty and moms with newborns and all kinds of stuff. So although we're not a socialist country, our system is kind of socialist. But this guy comes in and they're calling him a socialist and a Muslim. And so there's a smear campaign on, well, he's another Muslim that's going to push the agenda of Sharia law, and he wants to make everything free. And so, no taxes on this, or one of the things he actually wanted to do was freeze the rent, basically, so that they can't keep hiking up rent on you every time you renew your lease, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's there has to be some balance there, obviously, because people don't just raise the rent of New York City apartments because they want to. Sometimes they have to, and it's just a market that pushes things. So, but because he is Muslim, because he is brown and a socialist, he's getting smeared right now. I just saw a video of him where he, I guess, was trying to start a hip hop career or a rap career. I saw the video, bro. He's wearing overalls with his nipples showing. I was just like, oh God, here we go. Another Zelensky.
Well, I'll tell you, and I don't expect you to list out the people. If you show me a video of a progressive news network going after him, I would tell you it's probably because he's Muslim. If you show me Fox News or a conservative news conservative news anchor or a news source or network going after him, I would say it's more on the bias of progressive versus conservative.
Right.
What I will say is he's from Uganda. There has been some misinformation out there that he's only been here 3 to 6 years. He's been here since he was a kid, I think 20 somewhat plus years. At least that's been reported. And what is this right here? And the AP News, for what it's worth as a source. And then what I will say is a few of the things, and I hate reading things out to our crowd, but I just think they matter. This is from ChatGPT, so determine that bias or leaning as you see fit. Anytime people tell me things lean conservatively, I'm like, where's the list? Because there's not a lot of things these days that do. But I think they say his has sparked controversy. Business leaders, real estate groups, rent. I don't want to go too deep on this, Kawa. I'll tell you, I own a few properties. I don't mean to offend any of our listeners, but most of the people who complain about people going up on rent are people who never owned a home. And if you own property or real estate, you understand, and I'll give you an example, and I won't give numbers, but my wife had a property. That property is double what it cost 5 years ago. And people are like, well, what do you mean, Lane? The mortgage is the same. The principal and interest of that mortgage is the same. Insurance, insurance and property taxes, that mortgage is now double. So you're telling me, and I'm using this example, if I charge $1 for rent because that's what the market is, and my property taxes and insurance go up, and now it costs me $10, you're telling me that I should not be able to go up on my rent and I should continue to charge $1. You're high and you're stupid. And no offense, you sound uneducated. Like you don't know how numbers work. And when people are
It's
like,
not
well, you
how-
shouldn't be able to
yeah,
go on rent.
exactly.
It's like, here, I got a question. Move somewhere else. You don't have to live in New York City. This is the United States. You can be
Exactly.
anywhere in the country. If you can't afford to live there, get out. There's much more cheaper places where you can make a living on.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing for any other place. LA. People complain about LA. You don't have to live in LA. Go live in the Inland Empire. You're a couple hours away from the coast, but yet your life will be so much easier. You're still in California. Now you just have to drive a little bit to get to the beach and all the other stuff, the restaurants and the bodegas or whatever you like to go to. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see, man. I think we need to follow up with this guy because I don't think they're just getting started with him. And I don't know if he's really going to win or whatever, but if he does win, this is going to be kind of a controversial thing that I think we're going to hear more about. Or it could be a flavor of the month type of thing, right? Maybe it's a flavor of the month type of thing, but it's this whole thing with Islamophobia, man. I just don't, as a Muslim, I don't like it. Anytime I hear them pushing rhetoric, pushing these implications that because somebody's Muslim or because, like here in Texas, there's that city called, there's a new city, Epic, or I forget the name of the city, but it was basically going to be a majority Muslim city that was being built. They had the funding, they had the plans, and they're not saying that they're going to cut it off to the rest of the people, but it was going to be a majority Muslim city. Now, every religion has establishments and villages and towns that they have kind of made it themselves. The Amish, the Mormons, or the Church of Latter-day Saints. Now, I mean, evangelicals down in the South, there are certain cities that are heavily evangelical. And so there's this thing with like, just because these Muslims want a city to mainly themselves, and it's not like they have closed borders, they're saying people can come in here, but they want a place for them to have a community. Everyone's like, oh my God, it's Sharia law in Texas and this and that. And you got the governor of Texas, Abbott, who is like, no way, that's not happening. But Governor Abbott is also very much about giving $89 million to Israel from Texas taxpayers every year, right? Mm-hmm. So there's this double standard that really just rubs me raw when people are pushing Islamophobic campaigns and smearing Muslims to be jihadists, or Sharia law is this thing that's going to change everyone's lives, bro. Sharia law is not going to change your lives. If Mormonism couldn't make it out of Utah and didn't change anybody's lives, Islam is never going to make it out of the small micro communities and pockets of America, guys. Okay. So just relax on the Islamophobia, and Sharia law is going to take over, and your white, blonde haired, blue eyed wives are going to start wearing, hijabs and stuff like that. It's never going to come to that because Muslims don't care how you live your life. They just want to live their life here. And so I don't care about this guy. I don't know him. He's a socialist. Automatically, I kind of dislike him. But the fact that he's Muslim and they're smearing him because of that is what really bothers me. And that's all I wanted to kind of say.
Well, and I don't know. I highlighted a few of his stances or whatnot, and I don't know if this was said because he was a representative or a local governing. He's already in a certain political seat. I can't remember the name of the seat, but he was in Queens or something serving on some panel. I'll say this, and I don't think you'll agree with me, but that's okay. When you're running for a local office like the mayor of New York City, and, it's literally quoted here, Palestinian stance highlighted by a hunger strike and calls for Gaza ceasefire has drawn criticism from pro-Israel groups and more moderate Democrats. Shocker. Additionally, his calls to restructure the NYPD, including eliminating a strategic response group, have raised concerns about public safety, while his campaign energizes younger left-leaning voters. Okay, blah, blah, blah. American politicians, I will say this, and this is a hot take, Kawa. If you're running for mayor or governor, run that city or state. Like, no offense, like what we're doing internationally has nothing to do with that office. Now, if he was just being a supporter or proposing, hey, we need to get out of this, I'm all about it. I'm not trying to tell you I've heard that. I don't know the case. I'm literally reading this. He wants a $30 hour minimum wage by 2030. If there's any city out there that could do it, New York City can do it because they're burning money in a lot of other ways. But he wants a $30 hour minimum wage by 2030.
I'm moving to New York.
He wants city-owned grocery stores, free public transportation. I don't know if he's paid attention, but has he seen his transportation system in New York City and people getting pushed in front of trains and people being set on fire and people being murdered? I don't know.
This is from a kid. This is from somebody who apparently grew up in New York.
Oh, well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. They see public transportation as an automatic, where you and I, not that you're from the South, but you've lived in a lot of Southern states through your service and whatnot. And like when you say free transportation, again, I just like universal childcare and gender affirming healthcare positioning. Yeah, it's just all of these things. LGBTQ plus rights sanctuary city. Guys, New York City, no offense, LGBTQ plus community is just fine in New York City. No one is attacking them. It's like the Dave Chappelle skit. No one's beating someone up with a MAGA hat in downtown Chicago at 2:00 in an alley. That's false. No one's doing that. So any progressive agenda in New York City is fully supported. They're insulated for that support. You don't need to run on those things. Those things are just fine. And what's his name? Mayor Adams, for the most part, has been a very even-keeled politician. He's not been extreme one way or the other. And he's trying to balance the budget and make the city safe. Why? Why, you ask? Why does Mayor Adams need to make the city safe? Go look at your statistics. There's a reason. And people can tell me, well, Lane, that's in bad parts of the city. Dude, stop. You have 10 million people documented, and you have somewhere between 6 to 9 million people that are not documented. And I'm not talking about the current immigration issues. This was over 8 years ago when I did a 4-month project for the government in New York City. The firefighters and the police estimate that there's 6 to 9 million people on the books that are not accounted for and not documented, meaning it's not just Latinos from the southern border. There's Russians that go to Lighton Beach, go to Little China. There are infrastructures of townhomes that are supposed to be like 600 square feet that have been dug subsurface and are 2,000 square feet. And they have families of 16 people living in them. So I say that to say is that your city has for a long time not enforced certain laws for sanctuary cities and things like that. Knock, knock, who's there, LA. And now that a federal government has come in and they've put the locks down on some of this stuff, now you're saying it's inhumane and whatever, when the reality is you're culpable and the federal government's culpable for allowing open borders and things to where now it's being enforced. This is the action that's inhumane, not the action for setting it all up. So I'm all over the place tonight, and I apologize, but a lot of these things get me going.
No, I like it, man. This is like a spicy version of Lane on this podcast. I like it. I think, like, listen, I'm not a bandwagon type of guy. That's why I don't bandwagon on Trump. I don't bandwagon on anybody. That's why I can say that there's little things that Obama might have done good. There's little things that Clinton and Bush and every president might have done good. But the majority of the presidents have made terrible decisions in the last 50 years. And the majority of the mayors and governors within New York has also made terrible decisions. And we can say that for California, Illinois, and some other places, especially Chicago. But, I get it that there has to be some authenticity to a candidate when he's running for mayor or governor, because he has to then now provide those actions or act on those promises that he, was saying in his campaign. And the one thing that kind of got me looking at this guy was when he did that whole like interview on the news channel or whatever, where they were like, as the mayor of New York City, where is the first place you're going to go? And everybody on that panel was like, well, I'm going to go to Israel and show my support because I'm going to, and then everybody was like a robot. And where are you going to go? I'm going to go to Israel. Oh, where are you going to go? I'm going to go to Israel because they're our biggest ally. And then this dude was like, I'm going to stay right here in New York City, bro, because I got 200,000 people, constituents that are depending on me. And when he said that, I was like, oh, man, this dude's going against the grain hard, right? Because you have to say you're going to Israel because those people all probably got AIPAC funding, and hence why, again, supporting the powerful Israeli lobby in this country who buys our politicians and makes them say stuff like that. Just like that lady that I forget her name, but the video came out where she was like, and because America is the best country in the world next to Israel. Like, aren't you like a top official in the Pentagon and you just said that, bro? Because your AIPAC handler got you and you got to say it. And he doesn't have an AIPAC handler. And for that fact alone, that he doesn't bend the knee to Israel as a U.S. politician is always a positive in my book. So, but again, I don't know much about this guy. His actions as mayor of New York will be seen if he wins that race.
Yeah, and I think not to elaborate too much on that, but I think obviously you bring up APAC, and everyone that's been listening for the last few weeks understands your passion towards highlighting and identifying Israel's, meddling in our elections and things like that in our government. I'll also tell you, anytime you see a politician make a decision, to your point, saying all the presidents have made bad decisions, well, local senators, congressmen and women, and politicians in general, anytime they make a mistake or they make a decision that doesn't make sense, you can't make sense of it. There's a reason. Once you run that first election, right, you owe your party. That second, third, and fourth election, if you stay in the seat, you owe somebody. Somebody has written a check, big pharma, the oil field industry. There's lobbies out there that literally support these campaigns, and they're not directing you all the time to do X or do Y, but you know what they need you to support and not support, and you know it's in your best interest to stay in power. Our current government is literally set up to incentivize politicians to stay in the seat. The longer they stay in the seat, the more influence and more, gains that they can make financially. However, I think, and this is just a possible solution, if you start limiting some of these terms, even if a politician is bad or not good at their job or clearly compromised, well, they're gone in 8 years. They're gone in 4 years. I think people who have been in the Senate and Congress for 20, 30 years is absolutely unsatisfactory. And furthermore, all these topics between immigration, politicians, and all these things we've discussed tonight, I would argue that Americans need to look at what are we doing legislature wise to change these things? Are we changing campaign contributions? Are we observing them? Are we limiting politicians on the amount of money they can be, given from these different lobbies and stuff? Are we limiting terms on Congress and Senate? You ever notice why that never passes, but almost every American, regardless of their political leaning, agrees with we should have limits, but that never gets done? You know why? Because the people that have to do it are the very people that are going to have to kick themselves out of office, and they won't do that.
Exactly.
Or when they talk about cutting VA funding for retired military, they never talk about senator retirement. They never talk about congressman retirement. So it's just one of those things where I wish Americans would realize that I don't necessarily know what side of the aisle or side you fall on, but somewhere in the middle is the actual politicians who's just being puppet master, pulling everyone a direction, this direction, that direction, to create tension and create problems so that the politician can swoop in and save the day.
100%. They're living within their own ecosystem, and it's a very fine oiled type of ecosystem where they have solutions for the problems that they have created, and it's just now like a cycle of creating problems with the solutions already pre-made so that they can push the agendas forward, and with that goes public optics and things that they have to say that make you feel like they're doing right by you when in reality they may not be at all. And it comes down to the people, in fact, that can change the term limits. Yes, we want term limits, and we say that, and it echoes here in our society, there and here. But if we actually put foot to ground and we actually stood up and said, no, we actually mean it this time, and this is what we're marching for. We're specifically marching for term limits, right? Because who's not against term limits? Liberals, are they against term limits? Nope. Conservatives, are you against term limits? Nope. This is one topic we're all agreed on. This is one topic that could really unite us, and we could all just be like, you know what? Let's plan a march on Washington, and the only thing that we are wanting is term limits. Watch how quickly it changes, and we probably would get it done. But again, we're so divided. By the way, it was Tammy Bruce, the official.
Yep.
The official
Isn't she the
spokesperson.
NATO representative, or?
She's the official spokesperson for the State Department.
Oh, okay. Got it.
But her quote unquote, America is the greatest country on earth next to Israel. These are the type of people that we have in office, guys. And with that, I think it's time to wrap this episode.
Yeah, so we don't have any questions this week, guys. A couple of things to go over. We've seen some comments. We appreciate them. I would just challenge you guys, when you get in the comments section and you challenge an opinion of Kawa and I's, please challenge it, but do something more than Kawa, you're stupid, or your opinion's dumb. Hey, fair. Okay, you don't agree. Provide some elaboration so that we can, create some dialogue or discourse on the topic, and hopefully enable us to discuss it on the next episode, or to go into it, or invite you to the episode to have a quick, section of debating or talking to you. Also, furthermore, we appreciate all the support. All of our socials have blown up. YouTube has gotten a lot of traction. Our Spotify profile has blown up, and we appreciate it, because at the end of the day, Kawa and I are not getting paid to do this. We don't have sponsors. Given the topics we talk about, I don't know if you know this, neither one of us are holding our breath for sponsors. But we're having fun, and hopefully we're reaching out. I can tell you the veteran community and some people we've worked with have enjoyed this. So we're going to get better. The editing's getting better. Our punctuation in terms of releasing episodes, which I get to say easily, that's Kawa's job. So he's the one that's working a lot of hours to get it done, and I get to just post stuff to social. So as long as we keep the equation there, we'll be right on time. If y'all start depending on me editing these things, we will not be on time.
Yeah. Everything that Lane said, I'm not gonna repeat any of that. But again, thank you guys. Yes, if you're disagreeing with us, and if you notice that on the videos that people actually put like comments on there, even if you're just taking a shot at me, it's cool, because I responded in a way that makes you that now I'm putting the ball back in your court. I'm like, well, then give me an example of why I'm wrong, or give me whatever it is, but come with something. Because if you notice on Instagram, on our shorts where we get most of our comments, I respond to people, and I take my time responding to you. I've written paragraphs already because I want to engage with you guys. So if you're coming at me, come correct, and we can have a good conversation. Otherwise, if you want to put a little troll comment in there, cool, bro. You can boost our algorithms with your troll comments too. But that's it for us, guys. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Weekly Debrief with Lane and myself. We obviously enjoy doing this for you guys. We try to keep on schedule. It looks like right now we're just posting on Mondays, and so we're trying to stick with that. But if we can change it, we will. If not, we'll roll with it. Check this video out on Instagram as well. You'll see it in shorts. If you're more of an Instagram person, you'll see all the shorts. Not obviously hour and 10 minutes of shorts, but you'll catch some of the juicy stuff. But then hopefully that brings you to YouTube. Again, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications as well. And then, follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok. If that's where you spend most of your time, you'll catch us there too, and leave your feedback. But as always, we hope you guys have a good night. Cheers.
Bye-bye, guys.